Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. As our dedication for increasing students' ability, Mathematics and Natural Sciences Faculty, Semarang State University, proudly present general lecturing for students. Let us proceed some assurance today as your master ceremony. I'm Sophie and my partner Febri. Welcome to the public lecturing Mathematics and Natural Sciences Faculty, Semarang State University, Semarang, November the 10th, 2012. The Honorable, the Dean of Mathematics and Natural Sciences Faculty, Semarang State University, Professor Dr. Wianto, MSc. Good morning, sir. The Honorable, all of the honored guests, the staff, officials, and lecturers in department and faculty. Good morning. The Honorable Professor Dr. Ranbir Singh Malik, as a lecturer, public lecture today. Good morning, sir. And the respectable, all of the distinguished participants. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's thank to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Almighty, who has given us His mercy and blessing, so we can attend the general lecturing without any troubles and obstacles in this happy place and time. After, let's give salawat and salam for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, whom the blessing always we hope until the end. Ladies and gentlemen, this general lecturing is the part of our effort to the students' ability improvement. It's an honor for us to be here with you all to have this big program. Before directly proceeding to the main agenda, let's read the list of agendas of today's occasion. The first agenda is opening. The second agenda is reading speech. And the third agenda is the main agenda, which is public lecture with Professor Dr. Ranbir Singh Malik. And the last is closing. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our program today, let's sing Basmalah together. Thank you. Hopefully, we are always given this movement. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next program, there will be a speech from the Dean of Mathematics and Natural Sciences Faculty, Semarang State University. And please open this public lecture formally from Professor Dr. Wianto, MSc. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all members of the Faculty Mathematics and Natural Sciences, I would like to welcome you to this meeting, especially for the Honorable Pak Professor Ranbir S. Malik, Singh from Cowan, from Edith, Cowan University, Perth, Australia. Welcome to our campus, and thank you very much for your attendance and your time. This meeting is organized by Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, especially by the program of Teacher Education for International School. Teacher Education for International School is a program to prepare teacher candidate to teach at international standard school or international level school. So the participants of this meeting are majority our students from the program of Teacher Education for International School and some lecturers. The purpose of this program is to improve one of the purposes at least of this meeting, is to improve communication skill, both lecturer and students, especially scientific international communication. Talking about communication skill, it is very, very important. I remember one of results of a survey in the United States has been published in physics education. One of three main skills that frequently used in workplace is communication skill. The two other skills are problem solving skill and teamwork skill. So I think every graduate from our campus, every graduate from especially the program of education, teacher education for international school, is needed to achieve this skill, because it is very important, especially frequently used in workplace. Okay, especially to my honored guest, Ranbir, in your very, very busy schedule, we get opportunity to invite you, and now you are here, and our forum, our meeting, and after that, this floor is yours. So once again, I would like to thanks to you, and also we apologize for any inconvenience in conducting this meeting. And finally, for all members of the meeting, have a nice meeting. Thank you. And I must open this meeting. Okay. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I would like to declare this meeting is open and started. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for Professor Dr. Wianto MSc. And for the next agenda is the public lecture. And for this session, please, for Ms. Stephanie, floor is yours.
How are you today? In this special occasion, there is an honorable guest. He is Doctor or Professor Ranbir Singh Malik. He will present his paper on qualitative and quantitative research design. Before he presents the material, I would like to introduce him. Dr. Ranbir Malik Singh was born in India. He is from India. Do you know Shah Rukh Khan, sir? Or maybe, do you like to sing and dance? Because India always famous with the sing and the song. But now, he stays in Australia. But recently, he stays in Bandung. He will stay in Bandung for the next year. And then he has 4 children. And he got her PhD in 2000 from Edith Cowan University, Perth, Western Australia. He also got his master degree, several master degree, right, sir? From MA from Delhi School of Economics, and also MED in 1982 from Murdoch University, and also MED in 1989 from University of Western Australia. He also got some awards like International Scholarship to present the early findings of PhD thesis in Vietnam and Thailand, and also his PhD thesis, rated as an outstanding research work. And also, he also got scholarship from Australian government to study China's education system. And as a Director General of Education Scholarship and recognition to excellent research in education. So he is truly majoring in education, or in UP he also teach in education and research. And now he will present the qualitative and quantitative research design. So I think we go directly to the presentation, sir. The time is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Professor Mayanto, Professor Bode, and the organizers, I'm really humbled the honor which has been bestowed upon me. This is my third visit to Semarang, and as I was saying earlier to the colleagues here, it looks to me going to be my second home here in Indonesia. Edith has been told about myself. Of course, originally a slave. I'm from India, and we have settled in Australia since the 1970s, and my whole family is in Perth, Western Australia. To a number of the Asian countries, I have been invited as guest lecturer. Countries like, say, Singapore, Vietnam, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, India. I have delivered a number of the lectures. My major area of research is on both quantitative and qualitative research, with main focus on qualitative research. And that's where I'm going to share my ideas with you. In case I'm too fast, well, I'll think of the Japanese bullet train and I'll put the brakes on me. And please feel free to ask questions at any time while I'm going through the material. At UP, I have been the regular visitor since 2003, and now I'm based there for the past year, and they have asked me to stay there for another year. At UP, I've been teaching the S2 and S3 classes, and the topics are the one right in front of you. So, in this session here with you, I will be focusing my attention on research methodology. Well, I've been given a very difficult task to go through a video in this limited 2+ hours of work which takes me the whole year to go through quantitative and qualitative research. So the purpose of this presentation is to give you a snapshot or the synopsis of conducting research. And you are the ones who are just about to launch on your first research project. I tried to make this paper for you, and I do hope everyone has got a copy of, to write in the language, hopefully, which is not too difficult to understand. I also have given my address here, so later on, at any stage, someone wants to interact with me, please do contact on that address. With that then now, I start with first, well, why do we need research the word read is again searching for knowledge. We need research because we want to know more about what we already know. We do research because all the time new knowledge is emerging, and people who look for the new ideas of doing the things are finding ways that how we can increase the body of knowledge. Basically, research is that phase of learning and teaching where the focus is to find something new, or already there is something we want to confirm in different setting how far that knowledge which we already know is valid, or indeed new times, the new technology, changing world, that how the new ideas are coming up. So to start with, there are three ways of knowing the things. We call experience, reasoning, and research. When we talk about experience, to understand the day-to-day problems, we depend on our experience. Some people are much more perceptive, perceive the things in a deeper ways. But the problem with experience is we are always selective in our perceptions. My perceptions are not necessarily the same as perceptions of you, and for that matter of anyone else. So experience is something which we cannot prove scientifically. Of course, on the basis of experience, we do get certain intuitions, certain hunches, and which can become the part of research. Second part is what we call the reasoning. Reasoning can be inductive, it can be deductive. Inductive reasoning is one when we start from specific to the general. Where the deductive is we start from the general theory and then we come to the specific hypothesis. To give an example of difference between inductive and deductive, well, deductive reasoning is, for example, when we say that all planets orbit the sun, that the Earth is a planet, and therefore the Earth orbits the sun. So we start from the specific, the general, and then we come to the specific. Whereas for inductive reasoning, we say, for example, that every rabbit that has been examined has got lungs. Therefore, all the rabbits have got lungs. So in this case, now the main difference is, when you think of quantitative research, we start from a general theory. And from that general theory, we make our hypothesis. An example of that one, let's say the students who come from the high socioeconomic status perform better than those students who come from the low socioeconomic status. So where does this hypothesis fit into? The grand theory for that one is the theory of social stratification. In other words, whole society in every country is divided into number of the classes. High socioeconomic status, middle socioeconomic status, low socioeconomic status. So that is a grand theory of social stratification. From there, we can take certain hypotheses which fall in the broad framework of that grand theory. So when we do analyze the things that way, we are talking about the quantitative research. Whereas broad distinction between quantitative and qualitative reasoning is that in qualitative reasoning we start with a general idea without any preconceived perceptions, and then from there we look at what actually comes out of it. So now the first thing which I would like you to keep in mind is, in quantitative research we start with our already preconceived notion of theory and the hypothesis. In qualitative research, as we go along, our hypothesis emerges from the data. That is first very important key point there. So in case of the quantitative research, well, where did it start? Basically there are two schools of thought, and those two schools of thought are based on exploring one question: how do we know what we know? And then the social scientists are dividing into two schools. One is called the British empiricism, deductive reasoning. The other one is called German rationalism, out of which comes the qualitative research. So what I'll do now is first bring to attention the key features of both the paradigms, and after that I will be talking about that what steps are needed in order to launch on research. So overall this presentation takes three components: quantitative, qualitative, and steps necessary to undertake research. So quantitative research is a confirmatory model of inquiry, how we confirm a theory, how we confirm our hypothesis. It's also called logical positivistic model, based on certain logic. Positivistic, confirm that in the theory, hypothesis which we have undertaken. Whole idea in this type of research is we start with the hypothesis. Those hypotheses originate from certain theory, and then we design our questions and our hypotheses in order to confirm or disconfirm the theory and the hypothesis. That's why it's called logical positivistic or deductive model. Aims at eliminating all the biases and preconceptions. Whole idea is when we undertake this type of research, well, we take a sample. In quantitative research, one of the important features is that you undertake a random sample. Random sampling means that every person which you want to take your research on must have equal chances to be selected. Aim should be to discover what is rather than what should be. Very important point there about quantitative research. What is? Well, clinically, you confirm whatever instrument which you are adopting in order to conduct research quantitatively, without bringing yourself, without imposing your own bias into it, without taking into account the context. Your whole idea is that this is the instrument I followed. First of all, that's one important thing is First, we have got to make sure that the instrument which we are following, it has got to be valid and reliable. Our sample has got to be random. So when you take these precautions, then we say, yes, this is the instrument which I followed, and on the basis of that, well, this is what I have found. So in other words, when we say that what should be, we do not bring our own personal bias into it. So that is one of the very, very important feature of the quantitative research. Employs lockstep model of logical deductive reasoning from theory to propositions. Theories, well, that's where your quantitative research has got to start. From the theory, then you start making your hypothesis. Example I started with, theory of social stratification. Society is divided into different layers, rich, medium and poor people. Who are the students who come from these different families? Then we start looking at how these students coming from the different layers of the society, how they perform. So when you are looking along that logical way of analyzing or investigation, you are making certain propositions, certain hypotheses. So, in order to follow this type of research, one of the things is there is a linear model of inquiry with a concept formulation. Concept formulation means you find out what are the major concepts which do tell us about the performance of the students. For example, achievement motivation is a concept. Self-confidence is a concept. So you follow, and that these types of the concepts come from the great bigger theory. So you follow that line of inquiry with the concept formulation, and then you say the operational definition. Operational definition means that how do we measure, let's say, achievement motivation? Well, to do that, we start looking at the concept formulation can be designed in a way by making certain statements. If you are a young researcher and you want to develop your instrument, then you'll say, to encapsulate the model or that concept of achievement motivation, I will put certain statements there to the students. Well, I love extra reading. I love to go to the library to find more material. I like to search on internet on the topic which I'm studying. I hate the books. Books put me to sleep. You make the statement like that, and then on the other side you write down strongly agree, not unsure, disagree, strongly disagree. So this is the way you are making the operational definition. Data collection. Well, before we go on the data collection, as I will be coming more when we talk about the steps to undertake research, well, we have got to make sure that the definition we have made Measurement of the definitions. The example which I am giving to you, data collection. Data collection is that stage before that you have made sure that the questions which you are asking, they are quite clear, without any ambiguity. If your questions are not clear, well, a researcher is likely to end up collecting a lot of data, and that data will be very, very irrelevant. So there are two stages of research which I'll talk about later. One is called the pre-empirical, and the other one is called the empirical stage. Pre-empirical stage is that stage of research during which time you are familiarizing yourself with the theory, you are familiarizing yourself with what type of the hypothesis I'm designing, and also the type of the questions which I'm preparing for my research. That pre-empirical stage is extremely important before you launch onto data collection. Hypothesis testing. So the model, quantitative research, therefore, it follows that linear model. Linear model means, well, what do you do first? What comes next? What comes next? You go in a linear fashion, you don't come back there, which is different from the qualitative research. So data analysis, drawing conclusions and writing the results. So it goes in that sequence. And as I have already talked about briefly, that you have, before you start collecting the data, make sure you are well prepared in your refining your questions, refining your topic, narrowing the questions, making sure that topic is researchable given the amount of the time. In this type of research, the activity of investigation does not affect what is being investigated. Activity of investigation, that is the instrument which you have prepared. You have got to make sure that instrument is reliable, it gives you the information which you are looking for, and it is clearly valid. And once you use that instrument to collect the data, well, you do not impose yourself in order to show your own bias. Emphasis is eliminating biases and to discover what is what it should be. When reporting in a neutral scientific context, neutral and scientific and context-free language. Neutral, you don't impose yourself. And in quantitative research, we do not take the context or the setting into account. Whereas in qualitative research, no research is possible without coming to the context. So that way, the two paradigms are different from each other. So in this case, quantitative research, we don't take into account the context. Research conducted in Australia, research conducted in Indonesia, quantitatively, where we don't talk about, or well, in one country, which is a multicultural country, people are from all different countries in Australia, well, therefore they do differently. Whereas in Australia, in Indonesia, majority of the people are Muslim, and therefore we must take into account the context. So this type of research, we do not give much attention to the context. Whereas, as I'll talk more later, qualitative research goes the other way around. You cannot understand the findings in qualitative research without coming to the context. Whereas in quantitative research, context doesn't have a great deal of meaning. Explain and predict the relationship between the objects and the events. Predict according to your findings. discover the facts of external world which you are trying to find out. Internal world, what is there in the mind of the people, how they invent their knowledge, whereas externally, the way they give you the idea through controlled observations. You make certain experiments, could be experimental research, correlational research, expositor relations, the research. So in that type of the research, and you have got to measure the instruments, the scales, you have got to devise, you have got to have certain variables, and it is those variables which you have devised are the ones which become the main and important focus of your findings. And description of such regularities in terms of the given laws. Given law, just as we do in physical sciences, chemistry, physics, medicine, when certain discoveries are made on the basis of the instrument which is being used, and that instrument gives you the type of the information which can be put in certain regularities or certain laws. Whereas in qualitative research, that type of thing doesn't occur. Statistical research is the bedrock of research. What it means is that there is a big argument between the qualitative researchers and quantitative researchers. Those people who are supporters of the quantitative research, they argue that if you don't have the hard facts to prove, what is the standard deviation? What is the correlation coefficient? What is the t-test value? What is the chi-square value of your findings? If you are not giving that type of the statistical data, well, then your research is soft. And this type of the argument continued for a long time. Guys, John Stuart Mill and John Locke, from the beginning of the last century, they were the powerful thinkers, and they kept on telling the social scientists, if you want to make your research strong, you have got to do the research as we do in physical sciences. And as a result of that, for a long time, people didn't think of the other models other than doing the research quantitatively. That is what the bedrock of research means. That is to say, you report your research on the basis of your hard facts. Data are in the form of the numbers. Research questions are specific and set up in advance. In other words, the entire model of the quantitative research is pre-structured. You arrange in advance. Your hypotheses are got to be stated, your questions have got to be stated, and you have got to state from which theory that you are going to work your hypothesis from. Then not only that, then you go through the literature in advance quite exhaustively, familiarizing yourself that what are the other researches which have been conducted in that area. So, in this type of research, therefore, everything has got to be pre-structured. Questions have got to be arranged in such a way that they are more or less close-ended. As an example which I gave you, strongly agree, disagree. There are the structured questions. Answers for that has got to be fairly specific. Whereas in the open-ended questions, you are looking for these big statements for the people that what they have got to say. Data are structured in advance, categories are pre-specified or set up a priori. A priori means in advance. Research questions, design and conceptual framework come together because it requires that variables be identified. Variables, some of the variables like IQ, that can be stated quite specific. Please.
Yes. Would you please make this statement? Discover the fact of internal world through control of temperature. And the algorithm control of temperature. And we have a number of different questions. Maybe the data because the artificial mathematical.
When we say they discover the effects of external world, that is to say the area which we are trying to find out. Internal world means that what ideas which I have about certain things, my way of looking at the things. Whereas the external world, there are, what it means is there are certain laws, and about that, what the people have got to say. If we are looking at, for example, again I'm taking the example of achievement motivation or self-concept. Well, around that, the people have got the idea that those who are highly motivated, that is the type of the specific answer they will give. Whereas when we talk about the internal world, they will also give the reason why I think that way. And when we say why I think that way, it takes into account the context as well. From which perspective that person is saying that why I think that way. For example, take a case. The character building topic if we take. Character building, the internal thinking about character building would be defined differently in Indonesia than in Australia, or for that matter in the other country. Whereas the external, when we talk about the external world, there are certain values which are free from the context. So those, in this case over here, we do basically what it means is we don't take into account the context. Whereas in the qualitative research, we do take into account the qualitative research context, but not in quantitative research. So the control, and that's why if we are discovering the external world, we don't bring the context into account. We must make sure that it is fully controlled. Person is conducting the effect of certain fertilizer in the laboratory. And in that case, when he is conducting that experiment, he will make sure that the one plot doesn't contaminate the other plot. So in looking at that drug, looking at that fertilizer, that's so that the other things don't contaminate it. So basically what it means is in quantitative research, every precaution is taken in order to avoid any type of interference or any type of the contamination. So that only then you can say, well, this is the reason why this particular type of fertilizer is or drug is effective, so that the context or the other things do not interfere. Whereas in the qualitative research, that's not the case. Okay, so we going a bit further, it requires specific research questions which have got to be set up in advance, and conceptual framework and design for its variables. Again, in quantitative research, this is very important. Before you design a building, a model is prepared. Say the urban planners, they want to design a city. And to design a city, a big model is prepared in advance. And after you have prepared that model, it has been debated, it has been discussed with the people, feedback has been taken from the other people, and as a result of that, then you start conducting your research. It assumes that human behavior can be explained in terms of causal relationships of the kind that variable A causes the variation in variable B. So, quantitative research takes into account the correlation between the variables. Stronger the correlation, more the chances are there for causation as well. Whereas in qualitative research, as we go through and go along like that, there are multiple reasons for something to happen. And why those things do happen? Because in different contexts, these things are different. So this type of research, therefore, you have got to design your concept in advance. As an example which I give to you of the urban planner, when you design a city, everything has got to be specified. Once you have examined your concept, your model, then you keep on following that model which has been pre-structured. Of course, minor variations can be made, but generally speaking, it adheres to what has already been designed in advance. Methods of social science should be used to search for general laws. If X happens, Y follows. If students are highly motivated, they will be performing at a higher level. So, in that case, in this type of research, there is always an assumption that of cause and effect. Aim is to develop and test theories. Develop and test theories, hypotheses on a low-lying propositions. Research should meet the requirement of validity, reliability, generalizability, and repetition. These are extremely important concepts of quantitative research. Without alluding to these concepts of validity, reliability, generalizability, and repetition, we can't think of quantitative research. Is it valid? Is it reliable? The instrument which I have used, that if, say, you are playing a game of dart and you hit the dart, the bull's eye, well, it means your instrument is fairly reliable and valid. All the time it is giving you the same result. So that whereas in qualitative research, such notions of reliability and validity are not very common. Generalizability. If I conducted the research in Indonesia on the students of at graduate level, with the same variables, I want to conduct research in Malaysia. I conducted the research in Semarang in a school. I would like to undertake a research in Yogyakarta in a similar setting. So can I get the similar results, same results? Then you say, yes, it can be generalized from one setting to the other. It can be. I conducted this research today, and on the same setting I want to do the same research after 2 years, 3 years. Can I repeat? So when we are talking in these terms, well, we are conducting the quantitative research. All of these concepts which we are talking about here, they are very loosely structured in qualitative research. It doesn't mean that in qualitative research we don't pay attention to these. But in quantitative research, when the term which I used with you, then it is the bedrock of research. So when we say that it is the bedrock of research, that these are the main pillars of that bedrock. Validity, reliability, generalizability, and repetition. Can it be generalized from one context to the other? Can I repeat that research again? The instrument which I use for this class, can I use for the other class? Instrument which I designed to do the research here, can I use the same instrument in other contexts? Major concepts. It focuses on testing the objective theories by examining the relationship among the variables. How socioeconomic status is related to achievement and motivation. How socioeconomic status is related to self-concept. How self-concept and motivation are related to academic performance. How the academic performance at high school level can predict the chances of a student to be successful in the university. When you take that way, yes, certainly you are talking about the variables which build up your thesis. Variables can be measured typically on instruments designed by the researchers. Does not take into account the setting, context, subjective view of the participants. You leave yourself out of the way. Let your instrument which you have designed, let it tell you that this is the way, this instrument which I've tested on my pilot research, and how varied this instrument is, how reliable this instrument information is given to me. That's not okay. But theory, hypothesis, all the last point which I'm putting here, well, these are the main core ideas of quantitative research. So going step by step there, if you launch on quantitative research, you start with a theory. In what grand theory my questions or my hypothesis fall into? Let's say a student decided to take a topic on population control and wants to undertake a research in, let's say, China. Well, the student would say, my grand theory is in demography, it deals with the issues of population control. With that main theory on population control, students undertake the research, well, one-child policy in China. Well, one-child policy, well, there the student will be designing certain questions, certain hypotheses, and those questions and hypotheses fall into the grand theory, which is for demography. Then, after that, having done that, then I want to say, okay, I want to continue my research on this topic. Well, how should I go about it? One of the things is, we cannot take the whole population. So, in order to do that, in quantitative research, we do take a random sampling. Out of this group of the student participants here, I want to do the research. Well, on a topic which I have already designed in order to test students' interest in doing research. Well, I will take out of this, let's say, 100 people, roughly speaking, about if the total population is 100, your reasonable random sample would be about between 30 and 40 would be plenty, about 1/3. So on that one then, the way I will be selecting, mixing up all of you, male, females, more intelligent, less intelligent, all of you over to be out of that, and at random I take those cases. So in that case, when you are taking at random, well, already what actually I'm doing here is I'm eliminating the bias. And more elimination of the bias is there in research, better the chances are there you will get more valuable results. So the theory, hypothesis, random sampling, measuring scales. Measuring scales, I gave you the example. Strongly agree and disagree, strongly disagree. That is a measuring scale. And then you collect the data, all those highly, but those who are strongly agree or those who strongly disagree, and then you go back to who are these type of the people who strongly agree, who are these type of the people, where do they come from, those who strongly disagree. So that is called the measuring scale. Operational definitions. Operational definitions are that some of the variables you cannot clearly define. In IQ, well, there are IQ tests you can take, okay, that's okay, that you can take it as it is. Academic scores, that you can take it. But at the same time, if you are saying that I want to take achievement motivation, self-confidence, these type of the variables you are taking, you have got to design an instrument, and in that instrument you design the questions in such a way that they encapsulate the essence of achievement motivation and self-confidence. That is what we call the operational definitions. Yes, please. What? Please. Self-confidence.
Yeah, but it's difficult for us to be free from bias.
In qualitative research.
In qualitative research. In the sense that our feeling and this kind of thing but the result of what is proper being better is really so in this case, based on your experiences, how you're going to avoid bias in order for you to get real on the real time you're expecting that one is the data we are expecting.
Right. Alright, those are the back there. If you didn't hear, the question is, how do we eliminate bias in quantitative research and in qualitative research? The best way to avoid bias in quantitative research is that how good your sample is. And how good your sample is, it has got to be randomly selected. When I'm using the term randomly selected, it means that from all of you, if I'm taking a sample here, everyone should have equal chance to be selected. So, in quantitative research, the elimination of bias can be done by taking the random sample. Doesn't matter how much precaution you take, there will be, your sample will not give the same result as the overall population is. If on a certain measure,
If I take the mean of all of you on IQ, that mean will not be the same. If I take a random sample, there will be still a gap. That is called sampling error. Less the sample error, more the confidence is there in your research, in your taking the data. In case of qualitative research, well, sample is never at random. Sample is always purposive. There's certain purpose behind it. I want to do research on, let's say, the students of certain ethnic groups. So the data I'll be taking in this case is those who are typical of that ethnic group. Though after having done the research, how we eliminate the bias in qualitative research, we take into account, we confirm that evidence collected from one source, take information from another source on the same topic, find the information from other source, and then triangulate the whole information. When you are confirming from different sources, whether collecting from different sources, either giving the same type of results or close to the same type of results. On the other hand, if the gap is too much, well, certainly there could be some problem in my research project there. So, having said that, it is very, very difficult to avoid subjectivity or bias in qualitative research. It is much easier to avoid bias in quantitative research, and that's where the two researches are, paradigms are a bit different. Can you speak out a bit, please?
Yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of using qualitative research. In fact, with quantitative research, it's much easier to get the valid and reliable data for the research. So this is the main thing I'd like to know what your experience is with ethnographic research or something like that. Which is your research it deals with notion or some information from certain respondents regarding certain things that should not be influenced by our feeling or our own expectation. Because usually we are as you have said before, that usually our research is also influenced by our previous notion or our previous ideas.
Well, I'm just stepping a few steps ahead answering that question there. Well, yes, sure, well, I've done the research quantitatively and qualitatively, but more of my experience has been with qualitative research and more so with ethnography component of the qualitative research. While on the basis of my experience, and the question from the audience, sorry, I don't know, I haven't got your name though. Okay, the question has been that on the basis of my experience of conducting ethnographic research, how do I eliminate the bias? Okay, my PhD thesis was on comparing the home and school learning environment of the Chinese Australian high school students and the Anglo-Australian high school students. To collect the data from these homes, which was a long process of conducting this research, almost 5.5 years, the whole idea was, in order to find out how is this particular home affecting this child, how this home is taking the school matters, how seriously, how is this child performing at school? So the information in this case over here, from my experience, I had to collect research from different settings. It's not only by talking to the people, participants, it is by observing them in all different types of the situations, in all different types of the context. What people say, what people do, they are not necessarily the same thing. There's always a gap. That gap you can start narrowing down by living with the people, talking to them in all different situations, and at the same time, while you are in that situation, it depends upon how good your relationship is there in the context, how well you have been accepted in that context. Well, you cannot get very reliable information unless you develop a good relation. But when you develop a good relation, then there is a danger of favoring that setting to a degree that, oh well, but you have become part of those people there. This is called dominating. So you step in order to get the much more credible information. Then you come back, think over, and ask yourself, hey, were these people really genuine when they were giving the information to me? How did they think of me? Are they really quite comfortable sharing the information with me? And at the same time, you are noticing, you are observing the body language as well as the people. So on a long-term basis, when you collect the data through observation, by asking the people, by looking at them at all different types of the situations, where this is the one way, and in fact the major approach by these people to avoid the bias. But at the same time, having said all of that, it is the bias is very, very much part of the qualitative research. There is more bias in qualitative research. There is much more subjectivity in the qualitative research. There is much more emphasis on context in qualitative research compared to the quantitative research. Alright? Okay. We'll proceed further, people. So, definition. Okay. The structured interviews, hypothesis testing, level of significance. Level of significance means that what percentage of how much we are prepared to accept as because of the error. Generally speaking, in quantitative research, the level of significance is put at 0.01, 0.05. What it means is, if we say 0.1, that there is 1% possibility that it could have happened because of change. 0.05 means 5% possibility by chance, and then you test your hypothesis, look at the confidence level, and then you say, well, in my research, I found that there is a very strong correlation between achievement motivation and academic performance. What do I mean by very high correlation? Generally speaking, if the correlation is above 0.65, we say is high correlation. If it is about 70%, 0.70, we say robust correlation. So that is the way we do make generalizations about this type of research. Major considerations. Do I claim to compare or relate the variables? If I'm comparing the variables, I conducted a test on my class before I started teaching the course, and then I want to conduct another test on my class after I've experimented one teaching methodology where I use a different test, t-test. If I'm comparing the more than two variables, I use different type of the test. How many independent variables, dependent variables, do I have in my research operation? So that's the way you keep on, but these are some of the questions we have got to take into account while we are conducting the quantitative research. How will I measure these variables? Something which I have already talked about. Are the scores in my variables normally distributed? How do I decide to accept or reject null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis? Null hypothesis, generally when the way it is stated, yes, there is no difference. Alternative hypothesis, yes, there is a difference. There is a difference between those students who are highly motivated and their academic performance. Null hypothesis, we say, oh well, no, that it doesn't make any difference. A researcher wants to conduct a research and wants to say, does the hours of sleep make any difference on the performance? And conducts a research on two samples. One sample is, students in one sample are allowed to sleep for 8 hours, others are allowed to sleep for 4 hours. Next day the researcher wants to give them the test. I want to say whether the students who were deprived of a long sleep perform better or worse. So when you do that type of the research, well, that is to say you control one group and experiment on the other. How will I measure the variables? How do I decide to reject a particular hypothesis? It depends upon at what level I'm testing my hypothesis. How much I'm prepared to say that this could be by chance, or what could I say that this is because of the experiment which I'm making on my sample. Well, these are the main concepts about quantitative research. To sum up the whole thing, quantitative research is stated in numbers. Quantitative research, we start with theory and hypothesis. Quantitative research, we take into account the variables. Some variables are easy to define, other variables we have got to make the operational definition. Then we test the hypotheses by analyzing the data which we have collected. On the basis, once we have done that, then we start discussing the findings, and in the discussion of the findings, we go back to the literature which we reviewed, and in that literature, we would have noted that these were the gaps in the previous researches. These researches were done in that context. Such and such variables were taken. I have taken the similar variables or different variables, how my findings are different. So, certain views can be confirmed with the previous research, other views could be different. Whole idea as I started with our research is to generate new ideas, to confirm or disconfirm the existing research, to plug in the gaps in the existing research. So we must know about these points or these issues when we do the quantitative research. Okay, the next part is the qualitative research, and which is in many ways different from the quantitative research. First, quantitative research will deal with numbers. Qualitative research mainly will deal with words. Quantitative research we eliminate context. Qualitative research we cannot eliminate the context. Quantitative research we have got to state the facts in a neutral way. Qualitative research, even though we try to state the facts in a neutral way, well, it is very, very difficult to do that. Because in qualitative research, we look into the perceptions of human beings. It deals with the way the people are thinking about certain things, certain ways of doing the things. Why are people doing the way they are doing it? Well, we cannot understand questions like that without understanding the context of the people. Why there is so much emphasis on religious education in Indonesia? Why is not so much emphasis on religious education in Australia? So when you address the questions like that, you must pay attention to the context of the two societies. That's what I mean. So context is very, very important in qualitative research. Please. How much time is there? Okay, oh yeah, what to go. Well, look, people, I've been cautioned here to speed up a bit, and not only things about qualitative research. I have been interviewing between qualitative and quantitative. So, but at the same time, in saying that, if there's any question there, well, perhaps it would be a good idea if I leave the question time towards the later. Let me go through the main points, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions so that I can address to your questions later. Okay, so to start with qualitative research, it is not only one thing. There are a number of the types of researches which fall under this category. So qualitative research can be ethnography, grounded theory, and document analysis. A historian who wants to do the research, well, historian, how was Indonesia during the Dutch Empire? How was Indonesia before that? In order to get the reliable information, I go to the archives and keep on analyzing the documents. Ethnography is that type of the research you have got to be on the side for a long period of time. Grounded theory basically means that how from your data the new theory emerges. So there is no one type of research and one qualitative methodology. There are a number of the different branches. So it involves naturalistic approach to conduct research. Researchers study the things in there to make sense of the context under which they are making that such inferences. Inductive in approach, that point I have already talked about. It recognizes the source of research is a human construction. People invent the knowledge. How they invent the knowledge? They invent on the basis of their experience. And my experience of something could be different from your experience. And therefore, it is again the question which was being asked to eliminate bias. It's very, very difficult to do that way. So qualitative researchers are, therefore, well, they do want to get the ideas, what is there in the mind of the people, in order to understand why the things are happening the way they are. In order to understand that, you have got to understand the context. So, Important in the context how we talked about. Amic view of the world. Amic view of the world means what is there in the mind of the people. I, as an outsider, if I've got to understand the ways of doing the things in Semarang, well, I've got to be with this setting here, and in order to understand what is there in the mind of the people of doing certain things, I've got to find out your own perspective of doing the things. Inductive approach, I already talked about earlier, that this is the type of the research which starts from general ideas. You don't start with the specific questions, rather you start with the general questions and then you keep on refining the questions as you go along. So that is called the inductive approach. Interaction with the participants. If I'm conducting research as a male, well, my interaction with the participant could be a bit different. Well, for my PhD with the Indian origin, I conducted the research on the Chinese origin students in Australia, Italians, Vietnamese, Indians, and Australians, Anglo-Australians. So when you interact with the people of the different settings, of different origin, I must keep on sharing about myself, that who am I, how am I being perceived. All of those ideas have been elaborated in the paper which I wrote, and that paper has been given to Professor Budi. So you can have access from Professor Bayanto and Professor Budi if you want to know more about how to conduct qualitative research. Focus on understanding and description. Understanding simply cannot be done by staying with the people only for a short time. You've got to be part with them. You've got to interact with them. You've got to live with them. You've got to eat with them. You've got to share the jokes with them. You've got to be fully accepted. So only then you can understand and at the same time keep on making the observations, good record of what you are looking for. Ongoing development of your hypothesis. Remember, in quantitative research, I said you start with your hypothesis. In qualitative research, your hypotheses are generated as you go along in your research. Interpretive, how you interpret your situation. And the way you interpret, well, how do I understand and interpret my understanding of what you have got in mind? Well, development of the instruments. One of the things in qualitative research is you as a researcher are the best instrument to collect the research. There is no set instrument to collect qualitative data. How good you are, how much you have read about how to conduct qualitative interview, how good you are in order to develop your relation with the participants. All your personal qualities, how well you are accepted, how much you are understanding those people, and most importantly, what you are doing is leave your own judgments out of the door. You don't make any value judgment. All what you are doing here is you are reporting the way you understand the actual ways of doing the things by the people. What is going on there? What is in the mind of the people? How you understand that? Well, you have got to be very, very sensitive. Every bit about the people you have got to understand. A twitch of the eye could be different from a wink. And how cleverly you understand that depends upon your cleverness, your full understanding of the body language of the people, as well as what they say to you, the way you observe. observe them in different situations. And then each time you go for interview, where one of the things is that generally no electronic devices are used in this type of research, where always keep a pocket diary with you, keep on jotting down the notes, and each time you come from the interview, make sure where write down in full details what you observed, what people said to you, what different people said about the person you are collecting the data. It's not only you as an individual are the best instruments to collect the data. In every setting there are certain people who are more knowledgeable. Identify who are more knowledgeable in that area. And such people are called the key informants. Such key informants are there who would give you very good understanding of what is going on there. Having said that, be aware of that. You could be totally hijacked by a key informant. If you are not aware, then what is in the mind of this person? Why is he or she is sharing all that information with me? So you have identified key informant, use that person, but at the same time understand the intention of the people for sharing the information as well. Don't expect something for nothing. So there is always some idea in the mind of the people, and therefore, so we need the key informant in this type of research, but at the same time, we have got to be careful that we are not hijacked or we are not carried away by this person. A person who is prepared to share the information with you, that person could be marginalized. He may not be central in that area there. That person might be very good at talking, but it doesn't mean that that person is highly knowledgeable. So what the point which I'm trying to say people here is, in qualitative research, your personal qualities, the way you deal with the people, asking the questions is extremely important. Never encroach upon the types of the things which people are not prepared to share with you. Make the conversation so natural, so flowing, that it is just like a sweet conversation. And in that sweet conversation, there is one or something happens. While the conversation is going on, people can sidetrack. But you know actually for what purpose you are there. So keep on bringing the person back to the track, and without we are being selfish, but don't give the impression, this person is not prepared to listen to me. He or she is just prepared only to get sort of facts with me. So that's why I'm saying a conversational type of the observation, conversational type of the interview is the one where the things are moving very naturally in a free-flowing type of the interview. Narrative view. You are going to give the information in the form of the narratives or the stories. So you are going to be very flexible in your approach. And being flexible, the design keeps on changing because you are getting every time new information. Researcher as a key instrument, something which I have already pointed out to you, that your model in this type of research emerges from the data. Malik, they conducted research on Chinese Australians and Australians. While he had collected so much data, then Malik found out, but the Chinese homes, they deal with their children in such and such way. Chinese children, most of the time they are either in the laboratory or in the library, hardly on the playgrounds. Aussie kids, when recess time, lunchtime, they are going down the oval, kicking the footy or playing these sports. So all of that you keep on writing down and keep on observing. And in that case, your design, your model starts coming, this is the way the Chinese approach the education. This is the way the Indians approach education. This is the way the Australians approach education. So the model, the concept, into research of qualitative type starts to emerge as the data, as the research proceeds. You've got to be very, very much sensitive about the feelings of the people. As I already alluded earlier, never ever give the impression that you don't appreciate their culture, you don't appreciate their way of doing the things. Whole idea of this type of research is to give a holistic picture. So when you do that, see the people in the natural setting, the way they are doing the thing. And you are conducting your research. While you are conducting your research, of course I keep on making it down. Last time, this one told me the things, that they deal with their children in such and such way. But now I saw them, well that's not what actually he was telling me last time. So you deny your question next time, find an opportunity to probe, dig out, go into the bottom of the things to find out the other layers. What is behind the meanings or activities which the people are doing. That is called a layered truth. Truth is multi-layered. What people say, what they do, what they say at one time, what they do at other time, they are different things. How you find out the exact story, that is on the basis of long-term time of the injury, of living with the people. Research as well. I already talked about that on people, that research is the main instrument in order to collect the data and devise the instrument of doing the research. Qualitative research, general level and specific level. We talked about that part there. There are 5 stages of doing the qualitative research. Choosing a research site. Okay, I as a teacher want to do the research on students, and the best place for me would be, okay, well I'll go to the classroom. I'll find some teachers who will be very happy for me to come and sit in their class and in order to get the information there. If I want to do the research on the home environment of children of different families, well, I'll find ways in order to visit those families in their homes. In the home, what would be the best place I'll be able to get the information? The best place would be where all the members of the family interact, living room. If you are collecting information sitting in the lounge in the separate area, well, you are observing only one part. If you are sitting you're sitting in an area where you can see all those people, all the activities which are taking place. So it's very important when you do the quantitative research, select a site where you can see while people are talking about the things, what you say. And then you can compare what you see and what they do. Choosing the research site and sample. In this type of research, you cannot select the sample randomly. You have got to select sample with a certain idea in mind. That what would be the sample which would give the much more credible information compared to the other. So cultivating with key informant, we have talked about that part there. Obtaining and encoding the data. Well, collect the data and data collection, data analysis in this type of research goes side by side. You simply cannot say, yes, now I have collected the data, now I'm going to do my analysis. The qualitative research, you go this way. Go forward, compare. I collect the information on this topic, then, well, this is what they said, this is what I will forward with them. And then what I will do in that type of research is, okay, I'll keep the paper with me libraries. At the top, I will put my, here, on this first interview, put my name, put the date, put the context, where it was. And then what you should do is, okay, make the 2 columns there. At the top, here, write down what they told me. Write down everything there. Then you here on the margin write down observers' comments. From what this is in the middle is called the field work. And on that side there you write down in that column there that the observers' comments. What actually happens as a result of that, because you are collecting the data for such a long time. And when you collect for such a long time, then what actually happens, if you are not making it systematic, if you are not writing, what was the context, when did it happen, who was the person giving me that information, what did they say, take the highlighter, find out what are the key ideas there, write down the observer's comments, and then with your first interview, this is called transcribing the notes, field notes. From that, then you found out, okay, well, next time I go to these people, I'm going to find out more about why. Why do these people, why do these Chinese don't allow their children at the weekend to go join the sports complexes? Why do the Aussie parents at the weekend they take their children for the organized sports? Okay, you collect with the first interview all the data, you transcribe that data, you have collected those field notes, you have written your observation notes, then next time you go with specific ideas. Those, okay. And when you go to the field again, never start the topic straight away what you are looking for. Change some greetings. Ask how the family, whatever the situation the family is, whether your dog is okay, your cat is alright, or with that time, or will you go to have a barbecue, all these types of the things. Small pleasantries make the person comfortable. Then with that what will happen? If you are with this setting for a long time, they will start to tell all different types of the stories. Be prepared to listen to some of the boring stories. Be prepared to listen to their lies. Be prepared to listen to what a husband says about wife, a wife says about husband, or children talk about their parents. So all of that, from all those trees which are counted there, then sit down and look at, hey, how does this forest look like? Whole idea from those trees or from all those interviews is to get the holistic picture. And that holistic picture will come only when you have been talking to the people in different situations and at different times. Over. Conclusion. Okay. Right. But tell me, Darina, has everyone got this paper? Very good. Okay then. What I'll do is steps to conduct research. That is given quite clearly there. You go through that part there now. Okay, now I have been given the second warning here. But that's one of the problems with the teachers is when they start talking, they don't know when to stop. And unfortunately, they doesn't happen with me too. All right, now I'm told here now to sum it up. Developing and maintaining relation. We talked about establishing trust and rapport. Okay, social conflict. Then data gathering, data analysis. We have talked about that part there. Analyzing the data. Analyzing, I gave that example that you take the field notes, make all the notes carefully, and run the observer's comments and keep on taking from there. Then basically, now what actually it means is, well, coming to the overall inclusion of the qualitative, quantitative research. People, firstly, quantitative research is not better than qualitative research. Qualitative research is not worse than quantitative research. First most important thing is, think over what problem you want to take. That's a very important key point there. What questions you are going to answer. So, the problem, question, once you are sorting it out, and that happens in a pre-empirical stage. Define your question. Look at, well, if I want to understand deeply, I would be better off to take qualitative research. If I want to measure, if I want to experiment my one particular type of teaching, well, I will be better off with quantitative research. So the key point over here is look at what problem you are to tackle. Only then you decide what model you are going to select. Both types of the paradigms look at research in a different way. Quantitative research, everything has got to be pre-structured. Example of the urban planner designing a city I gave you. That's an example of quantitative research. Qualitative research, you go with the general idea, but general idea is I want to understand that how do these people motivate their children? How do they, Balinese customs are different from the customs say in Banda Aceh. So you have got to look at, you have got to have quite a fair bit of idea, general idea, and then you take from there. In quantitative research, you have specific ideas, specific theory, specific hypothesis. You test those hypotheses. In quantitative research, you generate the hypothesis. Quantitative research, bias is eliminated by taking the random sample. In qualitative research, bias is eliminated if the researcher clinically keep on looking inward. How am I being accepted? Are they really sharing information with me? What should I do? Where should I go next in order to get a bit more in-depth information? When you try to get the information from the resources, you are triangulating it and getting more credible information. What is the current situation? Basically now, well, quantitative researchers and qualitative researchers, they have come to an agreement there that there is more merit in combining the two paradigms, quantitative research and qualitative research. You can start a project, but again depends upon how you do it at master level, how you do it at PhD level, how much time you have, how much money you have. All these considerations have got to be kept in mind. So the current thinking now is that there is more emphasis on mixed paradigms rather than saying that, oh well, quantitative research is better than qualitative research. There's no such thing at all. So I think that I'll leave more time for you to ask questions. Please don't hesitate. No question is a bad question. I would be very, very happy to answer any of your questions here. Thank you.
Your presentation because our time is limited. Okay, so this is a question and session answer. And for the students, how are you there? And I hope you get the idea because the idea is very great, especially for you who wants to start your research to thesis, for your thesis or for your scriptsy. And for the lecturer, maybe we can share because the lecturer have already experience for the research. So that's why I would like to give the opportunity to the students and to the lecturer. I would like to divide into two sessions. Each session will consist of 2 questions for students and 2 questions from lecturer.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the great contributions. The first, I would like your name. Yes, my name is Unnes from Biology Education Department, and my question is: I'm very grateful for your attendance in the Semarang State University, especially mathematics and science faculty. I think that you are with
teachers that have many experience in the education environment and have a great achievement, especially your research report be outstanding. Can you tell to us how to be the strong research with great motivation and how to make your report to be outstanding and can declare to the world and will be the best one?
Good morning, sir. It is opportunity that I would like to introduce myself. I'm Unnes from Science Education Department, and in the beginning, Miss Stephanie tell us about Mr. Ranbir has Malik many titles. Mr. Ranbir has several degrees in different fields. I'm curious to know about your thesis. Would you like to tell us about your thesis? What is its title and why did you choose this to observe? Okay, thank you.
You are still here? Very interesting topic. Doing research, at least my conclusion, doing research is very difficult, especially to do qualitative research. Now, in our community, there is very popular research approach, that is research and development approach. What is it? Tend to qualitative or tend to quantitative paradigm? Yeah. Or mixed paradigm. Thank you. That's one thing.
I want to ask you about qualitative research. From your presentation, we know that in qualitative research there are 5 stages, and the first stage, sample population. I confused about the sample population because if I try read your paper, the title is the same book I think in high school. Mr. Ranbir only take 3 families: Mauritian, Morgan and Maka. But the conclusion of it, you can compare Anglo-Australian and Chinese Australian. I want to your reason why only 3 families you can conclude about it. That all of Anglo-Australian have blah 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 blah, have the specific characteristic, and then compare with Australia, Chinese Australia. Thank you.
All the important thing, if you are not interested in a topic, something which had been forced upon you, chances are there you will not come out with a very good outcome. So my first tip there is, make sure when you select a topic, you have got a genuine interest in the topic. One thing. How my PhD thesis turned out to be well received, instead of saying outstanding, of course it was given the outstanding report by 2 examiners, one from UK, one from USA, and the one from Australia gave the excellent award. So that's the way it was received. But what actually happened was, before I launched on to my PhD thesis, I had already conducted qualitative research for my master's thesis, and the irony of the whole thing is that before I started doing my master's thesis, I had never studied qualitative research methodology. So first thing which I did was spend 4 or 5 months to familiarize myself with qualitative research. Wherever there was a seminar on qualitative research, I took the opportunity to attend those seminars. So I familiarized myself with the methodology to conduct qualitative research. Then I selected the topic which I was interested in. And that really becomes quite interesting in one sense. Well, I attended then my master's degree from India, Dari School of Economics, which is very prestigious college in Delhi University. And I left for Africa. Taught there in the senior Cambridge high schools. There I saw a great deal of poverty, and in those poverty-stricken environments, students were all very, very keen to learn. I come from a farming family. The village which I come from, hardly any person at that time could read and write. India had just become the independent country, and I had grown up with illiteracy. I'd seen poverty in India, I'd seen poverty in Africa. Then from there, decided to come to Australia. I didn't come to settle there, I came just only to upgrade my qualifications and after that go back to India. That was my initial idea. But circumstances forced me. I got the invitations to do my PhD in Canada, USA, UK, but didn't have enough financial support at that time. So as a result of that, I came to Australia. And then I used to tell my children, well, we came here in order to get good education. To do that, well, there are good opportunities and you have to concentrate hard enough. While I kept on giving that advice, I also decided to do my further studies. And in those days, in Australia, higher education was not really greatly appreciated. That's why some of you might have heard the word anti-intellectual Aussie. So that term was what it meant was people were very much satisfied with the low level of education because it's a huge country and jobs were easily available. And I used to tell my children, being an ethnic person with Indian background, and that if you don't really work hard, if you don't get very good education, you will be segregated. You might become a victim of racism. It was my way of looking at the things. Children listened to me. What I used to tell my children, I used to observe with the other ethnic children in Australia. So that's how my interest in the topic started to develop. 1970s, Indo-China War finished. 1994, Hong Kong became a Chinese colony. 1990s, South Africa became, the apartheid policy was abolished in South Africa. 1970s, the White Australia policy was abolished. All these factors kept on impacting on me, and my interest kept on developing in ethnicity and education. So, when the question which was raised to me here, that how to write an outstanding phases, how to make unique. Well, my first but strong advice here is take a topic which you are really genuinely interested in. And once you are interested in, that is, you are self-motivated. Once you are self-motivated, I'm sure interest is there and you will tend to be doing a good job. So that's my answer to that question. What are the tips to do a good thesis? Well, you've got to be very, very good at understanding all different concepts, different ideas. Doing research is a very, very isolated thing. And especially when you are doing the qualitative research, you have got to sacrifice quite a lot. And I appreciate the sacrifice which my wife made. The only thing is, she used to hate to come in my study room. There were mountains of papers everywhere, and hardly could walk through. So that's the type of the thing you have got to make some sacrifice somewhere. Good things always emerge from quite a bit of sacrifice too. So be knowledgeable in the field which you are doing your research. Be aware of the methodology. Select the topic which you are interested in. Don't use the methodology without looking at what the problem is, what the question is. So once you do that, this type of the thing, certainly you will end up doing your job. Right. Question number 2 regarding what was thesis. I think what were the tips about the Well, altogether, to a degree, about my PhD thesis, I have already pointed it out. Originally, I was trained for quantitative research, and I wanted to do research on the topic which I ended up doing my research for my PhD qualitatively. At an international conference at University of West Australia, I met a person, Trevor Williams. He was very, very good at quantitative research. I prepared my research proposal and I discussed with him at the conference which was taking place in Perth at that time. And he suggested that this type of research would be better done qualitatively. So when he gave me certain tips and he directed me to some very key references, and those key references I read carefully and I got interested in the topic. So the thesis, to write a good thesis, one of the things is you have got to be knowledgeable what is already being done, how it is being done, where it has been done. So once you have all that idea and making yourself familiar with the relevant literature, but I would say these are some of the tips to write a good thesis. At the same time, one of the things is to write a good thesis, you've got to be very good at writing as well. So, the good idea always, get in the habit of writing a journal. Write about some experiences, sitting somewhere and describe the scene. Say how you give the description, read to someone and what the other people have got to say. So you have got to have very good writing skills as well. For me, of course, I came from the non-English speaking background like you, and for most of my life has been spent in the English speaking country, and then, language kept on improving as well. Question number 3, quantitative, qualitative research and research and development program. Well, basically, at the moment, there is much more trained on qualitative research than on quantitative research. Whether it's research and development or whether it's just a project in order to investigate certain topical issues, such as one of the issues in Indonesia is certification of the teachers. Well, certification of the teachers. Then again, what we look at, if you're in your research design development program, with the type of the topic that you are looking for, well, basically, then again, this type of the topic can be done very handsomely, very much in depth if we take both the paradigms mixed. So there is definitely, now is the era, what they call end the war of the paradigms and start mixing the paradigms, keep on looking at the problem on its merit rather than being slave to certain methodologies. So it's very important to understand the method of conducting the different paradigms, having a good concept of what are the main characteristics of this paradigm, what are the problems we are going to tackle, and how we can go about it. So then my personal understanding is there is no such thing as such now what we should do it quantitatively or qualitatively. 1960, the world's biggest ever report was written by James Cowan. 600,000 sample cases were taken into it. And the idea was at the time to find out why certain section of the American population, such as the Afro-Americans, are not performing well. That research was done quantitatively. Later on, most research was being conducted, and the upshot of that research was that it is not the resources you put in the schools, it is your home which makes a difference. That was the outcome of that research. 1970s, late 1970s, different school of thought emerged, and the different school of thought was, no, teachers do make a difference. That's how we are coming up with quality training, quality assurance, and quality training of the teachers. Biggest crime in the United States today, in Australia today, Singapore today, and all those systems like Finland, Singapore, South Korea, Australia. These are some of the countries which stand out in conducting research in school systems, and they are the ones where they say, no, it is the quality of the teachers which makes a big difference. Quality of teachers, certainly that type of the research now is a totally paradigm shift. So you have got to take into account that what the issues are. One of the problems worldwide, here's an example here. That before I started looking at where are the boys here? They're all females here. Well, the majority of them are not females, but the majority of them are the females. Well, obviously, when you look at the things, and then in the Western world, girls are performing better than the boys. That's a global feature. In the 70s, it was the boys who were performing better than the girls. So the circumstances change with the technological world. More and more emphasis now is coming up how we integrate technology into our day-to-day teaching. So the problem and the thing is, in research development, what actually we are looking for is what are the main attributes of the graduates which we are producing. Are we producing the graduates only for the market in Indonesia? Are we producing the graduates which could fit into the modern world? Singapore is one of those examples there. The emphasis is to train the graduates in order to tackle the economic issues, financial issues. Well, different societies are training the students in a totally different way. Before the communist regime fell in the USSR, whole emphasis was on communism. The same thing was in China. But now the world had changed. So with the changing world, the whole thing is that there has got to be change in this system as well, in our emphasis as well. So a system which is progressive is the one which looks at the global trend and the way the society is changing and keep on incorporating those changes into the system. And but the qualitative, okay, why only three? Oh yeah, okay. Last question was that why did I select only three families? For that paper, well, I decided to narrow down the topic and that's why there were three families from each of the books were taken. Originally, for my PhD thesis, there were 4 families. Originally, when I started the topic, I started with 24. From 24, they were reduced to 20. From 20, they were reduced to 18, 16, and ended up with 12. Why I ended up with 12? After 1.5 years, it wasn't my choice. I might have done some error while I was collecting the data. But those 12 families, which were part of which were the core of my research, they were the types of the families where what men would say, Ranbir, come, talk to us, we love you, okay. They used to accept me. Anything which was happening there, they would share with me. So when you develop a relation like that, then you can definitely do the very good quality work as well. So that was the reason there. So for the sample there, the question has been asked, why only 3 families? That was basically just only for that paper. That was not the whole sample for the PhD thesis. And why did I select all those 3 families which have been talked about in that sample? They were the typical Anglo-Australian families and typical Chinese-Australian families. Right? The question which I didn't ask, if I didn't fully treat those questions there, please don't hesitate to raise another question there. But I hope and put the people at the back to sleep.
Okay, I open the second session. So is it still possible? We still have a time to 12 o'clock. So 2 students and then 2 lecturers.
Okay, thank you for your attention. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Dari. I'm from Mathematics department. Okay, my question is based on my Mr. Sugestiano's book. Yeah, I have read the book that says we can convert quantitative data to qualitative data. But for the vice versa, to convert qualitative data into quantitative data is avoided. How could it be served? Thank you.
First, on how we can connect it with the natural science and also social science as become the integrated one, as kind of improving for Indonesia. As we see that Indonesia is still developing country, maybe if that can be integrated to one, we become a developed country. The second question is about quantitative research. We see that there is a requirement for quantitative, like requirement data of validity, reliability, general situation, and also reputation. So my question on how we can check our data is already fulfill the validity and also reliability. Thank you.
My name is Malik. I am from Biology Department, majoring in Education of Biology. Okay, I also asked about qualitative research. In qualitative research, mostly we capture data from inner perspective and right, Mr. Malik, and then this mostly became standard. So my first question, how our qualitative research ensure the work that is reliable and good enough. And second one, how to prevent many interpretation of collected material, so both of researcher and reader have the same concept. Thank you.
So, what we must do? We must change our product. Maybe in the first, we determine our product like using the quantitative, and then we find the data or the result is not appropriate, so we must go back to change our paradigm using qualitative, or we just accept this result as our experiment result, our research result, like that. Thank you. There are so many kind of factors that make this result is not appropriate with our hypothesis. But for the first, we determine the process with the quantitative or qualitative. So, if we find the result is not appropriate for our hypothesis, maybe we do the research to find the effectiveness of learning models, and we find that it is not effective. Maybe it caused by some factors, but what we should do, we should accept this as our research result, or we must analyze it and also change our method, like quantitative to be qualitative, or you know that. Thank you.
For example, for example, the learning model is not effective.
Addressing the first question here, converting quantitative data to qualitative or qualitative to quantitative. Generally speaking, the approach is, let's say someone started with a qualitative paradigm. What actually qualitative paradigm tells you is that it allows you to understand the phenomenon in depth. If in this research Malik had taken only 6 Anglo-Australian families and 6 Chinese-Australian families, what it comes out from this qualitative research is the ways people deal with their children. It gives good understanding of what goes in the homes of these children, and what goes in the homes of children, how they perform at school. So, certain theories, certain ideas emerge out of this type of the approach. Taken these 6 families from each of the sample, then you look at the broad literature, that what does the popular literature tell about the Chinese Australians, about the Asian children studying abroad, Asian children studying in their own countries, European children, Western children studying in their own countries and overseas. So you get in-depth information from there. Once you have got certain ideas confirmed that Chinese Australians, for example, attach a great deal of value to education. Anglo-Australian children do attach a great deal of information to outdoor activities. From there, you can go to the quantitative research, collect data based on those hypotheses which emerge from a small sample. So that way it is an extremely important, extremely productive and useful approach that we started qualitatively. Some hypotheses emerge out of it. Some of those hypotheses may be only typical of this particular case. Some of the hypotheses, by reading the literature on that one and by observing in those families, they could have global repercussions. So, in this approach, qualitative research is a stepping stone, springboard to undertake quantitative research. The other way around. I gave the example of James Coleman. Research was conducted on 600,000 students from all over the USA. Quantitative methodologies were used in order to conduct that research. They used a technique which is known as patch analysis. Using that technique, they found out that socioeconomic status can account for up to 0.45 of the academic variance. Where is 0.5 academic variance? Well, from there then they started saying that by doing the quantitative research, you can go only to a certain extent. If you want to understand the things in depth, you have got to take qualitative research as well. Now they are saying, that you keep on changing from quantitative to qualitative or quantitative to quantitative, but that way we can have much better understanding. And in fact, that's true as well. Lots of studies have been conducted and they found out there is a merit in mixing the two paradigms. So, it is as hard or as easy to go from quantitative to qualitative or qualitative to quantitative. So there is, and one of the book which I'll suggest to you is by Creswell, 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 2004. He has been quoted in my paper here. Unfortunately, in the paper I didn't put the reference list there, which I'll send later. So Creswell has written quite extensively on mixed paradigms. It tells you about that how you can do quantitative to qualitative and vice versa. Your question number 2 was, right. Well, regarding the natural science and the social sciences, as a general rule, basically quantitative research has been until recently more suited to the physical sciences. And the reason for that one is because in natural sciences you can control the variables. When you are making the experimental control group, it is quite easy. It's a lot easier. But when we are talking about the qualitative research, we are dealing with the human beings. Human beings have got the values, emotions. They do the things differently in different contexts. So there is much more emphasis on doing the qualitative research in social sciences. But at the same time now, it's coming back to this point which I had already made earlier, you can mix up the two and there is a lot of research now being conducted in social sciences quantitatively as well as qualitatively, and more so mixing the two paradigms. How do we avoid bias perception? I mentioned earlier, perception bias in quantitative research is eliminated by taking the sample randomly, keeping note of the way you have selected the sample and then conducting the research using the proper methodology of eliminating the bias. How you eliminate that much bias, it depends upon, again, the key point there is make sure your question is well defined, well structured. If your question is ambiguous, gives different meanings, you are giving to the audience and to the people who participate or are willing to agree to support your research, chances are there you will get biased responses. Well thought questions means half done research. That is the importance of the questions. How carefully you take your samples randomly, that also answers that question. So these are the two important bits in quantitative research. How you eliminate bias in qualitative research, unfortunately, in qualitative research, you cannot avoid bias because people speak from their own perspective. People construct the knowledge the way they think. The way they think depends on in what context they are. So that's why I was talking earlier that in qualitative research, best research is conducted when you say, well, this was the context, give all details about yourself. For example, for my PhD thesis, 7-8 pages have been written. I have written about myself. Who am I? What is my background? Why I got interested in this topic? So that the reader knows that who this Malik is and how did he conduct this research. You give the information about yourself. You give the information while you are conducting this research. How was your relationship? How well you were received by these people? How willing they were to share the information with you? And how from different sources you collected information, and then how you triangulate the information. What one person says, what the other person says about the same thing. What these people say at different times. So when you do that, you are minimizing the bias. But there are bias in qualitative research. It definitely got more than what it is in quantitative research. And that's why there are big bias against each other, qualitatively and quantitatively. That's the problem. Then, paradigm selection, whether we select quantitative or qualitative. Well, the thing is, that was actually the first important thing which I started with. Don't be slave to your methodology. Look at what problem you have got to tackle. Then you ask yourself how this problem will be, which methodology will answer the question in a better way. So it is the question which dictates your paradigm, not the paradigm which dictates the question. Well, then again you might say, okay, I understand my question, but I'm not so good at doing this type of research. General tendency is people don't like the numbers very much, and they do tend to avoid quantitative research. Well, then again depends upon how you frame your question. I have already in my paper talked about it, that the way you word your questions, the way you frame your questions, that dictates what type of paradigm you have. If you are convinced, well, this is the topic I want to do my research, the only way is for that one, well, get the skills of that paradigm, undertake some course, read more books, read more literature, talk to those people who are knowledgeable in that type of the paradigm. So, in 2 words, what your question is. Second, well, have you got enough skills? And I might add, well, have you got enough time and the resources? So these are the 3 important considerations you're going to take into account while you decide to choose a paradigm. Well, which paradigm change the, well, there's no, I think I answered that question there. It's up, again, depends on, more crucial thing is the issue, the problem which you're going to take on. And once you're convinced with that, well, decide on the paradigm, and then there's no escape to the fact that you've got to have certain skills in order to do the research. Avoiding the numbers, not doing the quantitative research. And some people say, oh, well, I'm doing the qualitative research, I'm good at it. Mind though, doing qualitative research is harder than quantitative research. I can guarantee on that one there. So, it is not all that simple, and the papers which how to learn the ropes to do qualitative research, the paper, a copy which I given here, well, have a look into it. And if you don't get that one, but Uping on the perhaps on the website, that paper is there, and it tells you about methodology.
Okay. Unfortunately, that was the last session of the question and answer. And maybe if you are still curious, especially for the students, you may contact Mr. Ranbir Singh Malik for via email. Is it?
Last page, my email address is given there.
Yes.
By all means, if there is any questions, and address any questions, I'll be too happy to answer.
Okay, that was quite clear. You can send your question to Mr. Malik's email. So unfortunately our time is limited. That was very clear and interesting presentation from Mr. Ranbir Singh Malik, and I hope we can see him for the next presentation. And for the students, if you are still curious and if you want to get deeper knowledge about quantitative and qualitative research, you may contact Mr. Malik. And also for the lecture, if you want to share about the research that you have done, maybe you can also contact him. And this is our last session of the presentation. From me as the moderator, I'm sorry if I made or I delivered some inappropriate speech or maybe term. And I hope we can see in the next presentation and in the next occasion. Thank you.
Sam, I really love to be with you here, people. Honestly, Sam, it gives me immense pleasure when Professor Edith suggested the idea. When my spontaneous response was, I love to go to Unnes again, and I hope to see you in the future. Thank you so much.
some souvenir for you, and this for Professor Dr. Wianto can give to Mr. Ranbir.
It's a little present, it's a very big present.
And we put our best effort to have this public lecturing, and we close this agenda, and thank you so much for your attention. I'm so sorry there are so many mistakes as the message ceremony today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.